So there's really two types of men, fathers and husbands in the world. Men who grow into be fathers and husbands. One are the very lazy kind who won't work or do anything or earn their keep. There's a lot more of the really lazy types. The lazy archetype is definitely gaining traction today more than ever. There's a lot of guys, a lot of men out there that don't even deserve to be called men because they won't earn anything. Then there is a second type of man. And this type of man is no closer to living the way that our Father, Yahweh, Elohim, wants us to live than the lazy type. The other type are the men who are so independent and so self-sufficient that they carry that manly pride and arrogance where they think they have to achieve and do everything themselves, and if they don't, then they're failures. They will never ask for help. If somebody offers help, or if they are privileged to have someone in their life who can give them a hand and help them along, they will not take it out of sheer, stubborn, masculine pride. Now, this a good man of Yah does not make, nor does being some lazy sluggard, some lazy bum who won't work. Now, there are two different types of ways you can work in this life. One way you can work is to go out and either work a public job, work hard, make a living, or you go into business for yourself. The second way that you can make a living, and this is not thought about anymore today, because if you don't work publicly or you don't have your own job, then most people just assume you're in the lazy bum category. The second way that you can earn your keep, earn your place, and earn a living as a man is if you help do right by or give a form of loyalty to someone in your life that you have been enriched to have in your life who can help to benefit you. What I mean by that is, a lot of people in this world, they got it rough it the hard way. Not everybody's born into money. Not everybody's born into a family who has affluency, who has their own business. They're not independently wealthy. A lot of people don't marry into that. There are more couples, there are more individuals who are born to very normal families, either very poor families or families that their parents worked normal jobs to just make ends meet. It is not commonplace. It's not the rule to be born into a situation or marry into a situation where you have in-laws or you have a family who has been enriched with means, who can help you and can help give to you. The two different types of men that I just mentioned, either the lazy men or the men who are very independent, the men who have this masculine pride where they think that I can't take anything from anybody who wants to give anything to me because, that just insults me. That's just charity. And well, no, that insults my manly pride. Look, this mentality, especially that has been bred in the Western American mindset, is just as bad as the men who have a very lazy mentality and won't do anything. They literally just want to sit around on the couch all day, do nothing, drink, do drugs in the modern age, play video games, work on their phones. The mentality today that if you're not one of those types of men, just worthless, that you have to work your fingers to the bone, either with your own business or you get a job or two jobs to provide for your family, to make it, and that's the only way. Interestingly, that American Western mindset, it's especially predominant in the West, only exists really since the rise of the Western culture, the founding of the United States, the adoption of what was called good old American values. But you know what's interesting? is when you go back into history, all the way spanning cultures in the old world, in Europe, medieval Europe, back to the Middle East, biblical culture, especially biblical culture. I mean, let's just focus on that, okay? Because this is really one of the best examples I can give you from a faith perspective, which is what these videos are all about. In the biblical society, just among Father's people, the people of Israel, when a man came of age and he went to start his own life by basically taking a woman from either within his tribe, and it was always within his tribe. When he took a wife, for one thing, after he married the woman, and back then, Father's definition of marriage is not the abomination that marriage is today, where you stand and you take a vow before a priest or a preacher and you get a piece of paper signed. That is not marriage in Father's eyes. Marriage in Father's eyes is the very first time that a man and a woman came together and two flesh became one. That was actual biblical marriage. You can understand why today's concept of marriage can't really exist in the way it should, because people sleep around. It's commonplace now to go date and sleep with a bunch of people before you get married. So if you want to go by the biblical concept, technically people today are married several times over before they finally get married on paper, every time they have sex with somebody. But back in the biblical period of time, just using that, and the time frame spans before the biblical era and after the biblical era, but especially in the biblical era. In the Israelite culture, the Hebrew culture, when a man got married, he didn't leave and go far away and go start up his own business or go and get a job somewhere working for somebody and get as far away from his family as he could. The way it actually worked was when he took a wife, usually from within their tribe, from a distant relative within the tribe, another family, what they would do is they would typically try to get a field, get a home that was very close to their family, and live within the community, within their local tribal family. Let's say it was the tribe of, let's say, Yehuda, of Judah. They would try to stay within the family bounds of that one particular family, that one clan, and the bigger tribe of Yehuda, of Judah, and they would stay there, and they would build a family. They would build that particular clan. And if the man's father was wealthy, meaning back then wealth was in livestock, it was in how much field that one owned. So if his father had a lot of field, a lot of cattle, what would happen a lot of times is the father would give to his son fields, he would give him cattle, and the son would live by the means of the father. The father would basically provide for the son, and the son and his new wife would live near the family. She would leave her family, join his. They would live together near the patriarch and the matriarch, meaning that man's father and mother. They would work. That man would still tend his father's fields and the livestock. They would live with their family, with the husband's family. And then, when the father of that family finally passed away, the son would then inherit everything that his father had. He would then become the patriarch of that clan, and then he would have responsibility for his mother if she hadn't passed. He would have responsibility for all of his younger siblings if they were still alive, as well as his wife and their children. And then it was up to him to build their clan beyond him. That was the way it was in biblical culture, the way Father intended it to be, and it's even in Torah, in the law. It was it was Bamidbar in Numbers. Father very clearly commanded through Moses, that property allotments, when father passed and the inheritance was to be given, that the inheritance given had to be kept within the family, within that clan. It could not go beyond that tribe. It could go from maybe this family to that family within the same tribe, but it couldn't go. That inheritance, especially in fields and geography and territory, could not go to another tribe. father was very adamant on keeping the right of inheritance between father, son, the family unit living together, and the son inheriting and living off of the means of what his father achieved. And how the son earned his place, the son wasn't a bum. He didn't sit around in his house that he built on his father's land just being lazy and drinking wine and eating lentils and lamb and beef and getting fat. That's not in any way how that the son lived. The son earned his way. He earned everything that he was given by working for his father, by continuing to tend the fields. Or if his father was maybe a tradesman, if he had a skill, if he was a blacksmith, he worked in some sort of an artisan craft, the son would help his father, his aging father. He would work for his father. He would help over the years take up the slack. He would take over more and more of the business until eventually when the father passed away, the son got it all. And that wasn't just the biblical community. That wasn't just the people of Israel. That was also honestly how it worked in pretty much even the pagan nations around them of the Middle Eastern communities. It was the same way, really, in a lot of the rest of the world. I mean, even in ancient Europe, medieval Europe, even with royalty. Royalty was really, honestly, the same. The family stayed, I don't just mean like actual royalty, but families that were more affluent within the European culture, European nations. Usually, again, if the parent, the father, had a trade, he owned a shop, the son would work with him, the father would help him get started, the family would live close by within the city or the town where they hailed from, or maybe they lived out in a village. That was ancient culture. That was the culture in the Middle East. That was the culture in Europe. That was the culture in Asia. That was the culture everywhere. There was no such thing as a man saying, okay, I got married, I have a wife, and I have kids, and I'm going to go out here, and I'm going to start up my own business, and I'm going to work for another man, whether 1 or 2 jobs, and I'm going to earn everything I have myself. I don't want no help from anybody. I'm going to have everything so I can say I earned it. It's mine. I did it myself. I was self-sufficient. That did not exist. That mindset was not how man was supposed to live. That is not how Father intended man to live. How the people of Yah, the Israelite people, the Hebrew culture, Hebrew community, they didn't live that way in any way, shape, or form. Even the renewed covenant community, the believers after Yahshua, and man says, look in the book of Acts, the people, the believers, they lived in a very tight community, very tight. They literally helped to look after one another. They helped take care of one another. Not just family units, but the believers, they helped take care of one another. Literally, they were one big family. This American Western mentality that if a man's not a bum and a loser, if he has any kind of masculinity, yeah, sure, that's great. Much better than being a lazy bum. But this mentality of, I gotta earn everything myself, make my own way, that is so far removed from how Father intended us to live. It is wrong. It is the wrong mentality. I don't care how you slice it, it's wrong. Period of the story. This came to me in very sharp relief. The other day I was talking to an older gentleman, and he was talking about his son-in-law. Now, this gentleman has been enriched over his lifetime. He has quite a bit of stuff. His father, who passed before him, gave him a lot of inheritance, and he wants to benefit his son-in-law as well in the same way. But the son-in-law is prideful. He doesn't want his father-in-law to give him everything. He wants to be self-sufficient and make his own way. Now, in Western culture, in America, people hail that mindset. Well, if you're a good old conservative Republican, if you have the good old-fashioned American mindset, American values, you're going to say, oh yeah, that's a man. No, it's not a man. That's being prideful, it's being arrogant, it's being conceited. And above all, it is in no way, shape, or form knowing or living by the ways of the Almighty who created you. It is not cool, and it's not tough, and it's not manly. If you have been enriched, either being born into a family where your father worked hard with his own business, he got a lot of stuff, or maybe he inherited from his father. If you were enriched, and make no mistake, Father creates everybody different. Some people he births into poor families. They are not enriched to be born into a family of affluency of any degree. Father decides how and who and where you're going to be born into. If you are enriched to be born into a family where your father has means, and when you grow up, when you become a man and you get married and you go to start a family, if you have a father who can help you and therefore help your family, your young wife, your children, help you start a life that otherwise you'd have to go out and slave for the other man or go out and open up your own business and be away from your wife, away from your children when they're growing up. Or be slaving away at a job 12 hours a day, or maybe working two jobs, especially today as pricey and expensive as everything is. If you have a father, you come from a family who can help you, who can help you start that family, help provide for your family. You don't take it just because you want to say, well, I'm a man, I'm going to make my own way. You are a blind fool. And you are eaten up with pride. And Father Yah Almighty detests pride. Or, if you marry into a family, if you meet and you fall in love with a woman, and you get married, and she comes from an affluent family, and her father, naturally, for his baby girl, wants to help you, help her, ultimately, with your house or whatever, get started, or help you get established. And you don't take it because you want to be self-sufficient. You're not being smart. You're not being wise. You're being a prideful, arrogant, conceited jerk. You are a fool. You're a dummy. You're not a man. You're an idiot. You're a child playing at being a man, trying to achieve an independence for yourself that isn't really independence, it's shackles that will keep you away from your wife and your children. You know how you earn your keep? If you're born yourself into a family who has means, or if you marry into a family that has means, do you know how that you earn that? You're good. If it's your family, you're good to your father and your mother. You honor them. You work for them. You show them respect and honor. For everything they give you, you do everything you can for them in return. If your father has a business, you work hard for your dad. You work hard for your family. You be a responsible, honorable son. You do what Yah Almighty commands us, and you honor your father and your mother. If you marry into a family and your wife's father has means, you be good to and honor your wife's father. You be good to him. You work faithfully for him. If he has a business, work for him. Be a good employee. Because guess what? Some people will say, well, what if he's a jerk? Well, my father-in-law is a jerk. I don't want to work for him. If you go out and you work a job, if you go out and you work a public job, most likely you're probably going to have a boss or supervisor you don't like working for. Or there are going to be days you're not going to want to work for them. Or you're going to go out and if you get your own business, you're going to work with the public and work with people that are jerks, that are mean to you, that are nasty. Whether it's patrons if you have your own business, or if it's a boss or supervisor if you work public job, you're going to deal with people, regardless, who's going to be mean and nasty to you. You're gonna see it no matter where you go. So who cares if your father-in-law is a jerk? He's an arrogant, conceited jerk. So what? If you work, swallow your pride, Work. Earn your keep. So your wife and your children benefit. Guess what's going to happen when the jerk father dies eventually? You're going to inherit, well, your wife's going to inherit, and you will inherit, therefore, everything he had. And you won't answer to him anymore. Now you'll have it. But if you bite your nose off to spite your face, and you go out here and you work a public job, or you go out and try to start your own business, guess what's going to happen now? You're probably still going to work with people you don't want to work with. Boss, supervisor, or if you start your own business, you're going to work with nasty patrons. Not all the time, but it will happen. But what's going to happen, the worst thing that's going to happen, is now you're going to be away from your wife and your family all the time. You're never going to see your wife. Never going to be able to be there for her. You're never going to be there for your kids. You're going to spend all your time working for the other man, or working to start your own business, never being a part of your kid's life. So they don't have dad in their life like they should. Your wife's not going to have her husband in her life. So she's going to become unsatisfied. And if a woman becomes too unhappy, that's when she starts to stray. If she's that kind of woman. And just because a woman strays doesn't mean she's just an unfaithful adulteress. If her man neglects her, and what a woman really truly wants is a man who's not just a good provider, but is also attentive to her, physically, emotionally, spiritually, who could be there for her, make her feel loved, make her feel like she's precious. So just because a woman strays doesn't mean she's an adulteress. It doesn't make her right, but still, if you're away all the time, you're not there for your wife, she finds in another man, you did it to yourself. Hate to say it. So if you would have swallowed your pride instead and worked for your father-in-law, accepted what he wanted to give you, let him help you and your family, and work for it. Work for him. Be good, be loyal. Be a good son-in-law, even if he's a jerk. So your family benefits, because part of being a good father and husband is swallowing your bloody, stupid pride, humbling yourself and doing what's right for your family even when it hurts, even when you have to swallow humble pie. And if going out and making it for yourself and being independent means you're going to be away from your family, you still fail. You fail big time because, sure, maybe you provided for them, but you weren't there for them. So you still screwed them over. So you failed. In the end, you failed. Whereas if you humbled yourself and worked for your father-in-law, or worked for your dad, if it's your dad, and your dad was a jerk, your family would have benefited, and when your dad or your father-in-law passed away, and you either inherited it all from your dad or your wife inherited from her dad, now you're set. You paid your dues. Your years of humility paid off. But you're not. Every situation is not going to be your dad is a jerk, a controlling jerk who wants to control your life, or your father-in-law is just a controlling jerk who wants to control your life. And a lot of times, there are good dads that just want to help their son and their daughter-in-law and their grandkids. And there are father-in-laws that just want to help their baby girl and help her husband, help their son-in-law, and help their grandkids. But if your stupid pride, that forsaken pride that is eating men up today, men are either lazy as can be and don't want to do anything, or they're so blinded with pride that they're just as damned as the men who are lazy and won't do anything. Men are so screwed up today, it's not even funny. I'm not saying anything about women. Women have their own problems today too, but I'm talking about men right now. They're so screwed up, it's not even funny. Because they don't know how to be men of Yah. A true man of Yah would understand. This is where the faith angle comes into play. A true man of Yah understands there's not a darn thing we have in this life that he doesn't give us. We don't achieve anything for ourselves. We don't provide for ourselves. We don't get anything for ourselves. Everything we have by his good graces. He gives us everything. He is the big dad who has everything. And he gives to us. And if we spurn him and say, well, I don't want you to give me anything. I don't want you to provide for me. I want to do it myself. He's not going to be okay with that. He's not going to stand back and say, well, you're just being a man. You're trying to be independent. He's going to say, oh, so you don't want me to help you? Well, okay, well, then I don't know you and you're damned. That's what he's going to say. Any man who looks at father and says, I can do it myself, I don't want your help. I don't want you to provide for me or my family. I don't need your help. I can do it myself. What Yah Elohim says to that is, oh, okay, you don't want me, want my help? Okay, well, then you can go to hell. Literally. Father is not okay with his children being independent. He's not okay with his children doing for themselves and functioning without him. Father says, no, you rely on me for everything. And that's why the family units are supposed to work the same way, because Father made family units to model after how he is to us. We depend on him for everything, and we work for it by being loyal to him, faithful to him, worshiping him and only him, standing for him, doing whatever it is that he gives us to do. We are loyal to him and honorable and devoted to him in the same way that we're supposed to be to our family. It's the way it was supposed to be. This Western American mindset, and it is an American Western mindset, because I can tell you, I know people from other cultures. A lot of Asian cultures do not believe that way. A lot of Asian cultures believe in staying together. They believe in helping out their children when they start out. They believe in helping them to establish their young family. The children, the son, he helps his dad. He remains faithful and loyal, committed to the family. A lot of Hispanic families are the same way. A lot of Middle Eastern cultures are still the same way. A lot of religious cultures are still the same way. I know that, for instance, I know that a lot of people in Amish communities are the same way. That's normal. That's natural. A son, if his father has been enriched, if the son is enriched to live in a family where his father has means, or his father-in-law has means, it was designed to where the son or the son-in-law would live by the good graces of his father, of his father-in-law, and be a good, loyal, hardworking son. And if he was loyal, faithful, hardworking, and steadfast, then when his father or his father-in-law passed away, he would inherit everything that they had, and then he would continue the cycle and become the patriarch. And by doing so, he could still be there for his family, for his wife and his children, instead of being away all day long, slaving away at one or two jobs on a public job, or being away slaving at trying to make his own business when he didn't need to, because his dad was willing to help him, or his father-in-law was willing to help him. Men have got to learn to check their pride, because it is disgusting and it is an abomination in the eyes and in the nostrils of Yahweh Elohim. It is an utter abomination. If you're lazy and you won't do anything, you're an abomination. And if you're so full of pride and hubris that you reject your father who has means, or your father-in-law who has means that can help you, and all you have to do in return is be a good, faithful son-in-law or a good, faithful son, and work for them and be good to them, pay your dues, swallow your pride, until eventually you'll inherit everything they have anyway. If you won't do that, and you insist, I'm going to do it myself, yeah. I want to be able to say, when I'm an older man, everything I have, I got myself. I worked my whole life. I went out and I opened my own business by the sweat of my brow and by the hard work of my hand. I got it all myself. And then you look at your family, and after years and years of that, being on a public job or working your own business, By that point in your life, you and your wife are practically strangers. You really had no marriage all those years. She hardly knows anything about you. You hardly know anything about her anymore. When you think about why you got married, you can't even remember why you got together anymore. You look at your kids. Maybe your kids got into stuff over the years. Maybe they took a path, did things that were wrong. They got into bad stuff. They made mistakes along the way. Maybe your daughter married the wrong guy. She got into bad guys, or maybe your son married the wrong woman, or you look at your kids later on down the road and you think, man, why did I go wrong? Man, how did my daughter turn out this way? But how did my son turn out this way? Or maybe they didn't turn out so bad, but you have no relationship with them. Your family is estranged. And that's the way it is with most American Western culture families today. They either go out and they work, the parents, the dad, to make it and be independent, make it for themselves. Even if they had a father or a father-in-law who could have helped them. They work. Or they go out and then make their own business, achieve that American dream. And 9 times out of 10, and I know a crap ton of people like this, their family they're as distant, they're as cold to one another. They're really only a family on paper. They see each other on the holidays, they get together every now and again, but that's it. Their kids moved away. Don't really have much to do with one another except for here and there. As they got older, the husband and the wife really start kind of drifting, doing their own thing. The husband lives in the garage most of the time, or out doing his hobbies, or with his buddies, or the wife spends most of her time with her friends, or in the house doing whatever, and they don't really have much of a marriage or relationship anymore. That is the end result of most American Western families, who the men want to be independent and do it myself. Now look, if you don't come from a family that can help you out, then yeah, you got no choice. You have to provide. But if you come from a family that can help you, establish you, so you don't have to live that way, you don't take it just because you want to do it yourself. I pity you, because you are a fool. And your pride has blinded you so fully that it will be your undoing, it will be your downfall. And later in your life, you will look back on it and you will realize that you ruined your life and you sacrificed everything that was truly important to satiate the desires of your own pride. And that's just a fact. It's a sad fact, but it's a fact nonetheless. We live by the way the Father made us to live. We'll prosper. He provides. He takes care of us. He made families and intended for families to model after how we are with Him, or at least how we should be. If you don't do that, you're living the wrong way. End of story. No ifs, ands, or buts. You're living wrong. And you'll pay for it one day. You'll suffer for it. Trust me. Not just you. Your wife. Your kids. And generationally. If your kid, your son, your daughter ends up doing the same thing, you failed them. You just continued on that generational failure. And by the end of your life, no matter how much you achieved, as a man, if you instead came from a family that could have helped you, that you could have inherited from and then grown later, instead, you worked it all away and you just did it all yourself, then by the end of your life, Father will look at you and He will call you a complete and utter failure in life. You lose.